Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartery here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I am very honored and very blessed to be joined by a very, very special guest, powerlifter Steve Ulch, who has some incredible achievements to his name, including being a two-time AWPC and WPC champion in powerlifting at the 140 kilograms, which I believe is about 308 pounds or about 22 stone, depending on how you work that out. So has an incredible journey in powerlifting, not only because of his achievements, but also because of some of the things he's overcome in his life to get where he is today as well. Is additionally a powerlifting judge, a world record holder in his weight class for bench press. So as always, today we're not only going to be talking about sports, but we'll be going deeper into the mindset that it takes to reach such a high level in one of the toughest sports in the world, powerlifting. We'll be sharing some life advice, some tips that help people, whether you are watching this as an aspiring powerlifter or whether you're involved in a different sport altogether. There'll be some tips for both sides. So stay tuned, everybody. And Steve, thank you so much for joining this morning. It's great to have you on. I know we were having a great chat just now before recording, but it really is great to have you on here today, and I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. So thank you for making the time.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me in.
It's an absolute pleasure. And obviously, we've both recently moved as well. I've recently moved from the UK to Cyprus. You've recently moved from Michigan to South Carolina. So that's
Yes.
definitely some common ground there as well, which I think is uncanny, the resemblances. But we'll come to that later on. Before we do, I don't always start at the beginning with my guests, but I think in your case, I think we will go back in time to talk a little bit about your upbringing, to talk a little bit about maybe where you started in sports in the beginning, because I think it's going to be valuable to touch on that, as we were talking about just now, where that work ethic was instilled in you from a young age, military background, farming background. Let's just get a little feel for your early years, please.
Well, as you know, I came from a military family. My dad was career military. Um, I am the second youngest of 8 children. Um, all of us have served except for two, and in the service. I was the only one dumb enough to go combat arms, but the rest of us served. I was. My dad got out of the service in 1974. Came back home, and we started farming first dairy and then beef. Um, because I was one of the younger children there, a lot of my siblings had already grown by 74. My brother graduated in Germany in 73. Um, and so dad worked full time. Um, my mom was a homemaker. And it was up to us boys to run the farm. You know, dad would give us a chore list and then he'd go to work and we take care of the farm. Right. Um, During the school year, I played football, I wrestled, I also played baseball and did a little bit of track, shot put, that kind of thing. Um, you get up in the morning, take care of the chores, you know, feed the animals, come in the house, take a shower, go to work or go to school. I mean, come back home, go to practice, and then do chores again. Right? It just there was no not a no holidays. You know, animals don't take holidays, and we did that up until Dad sold the farm when I was 16 years old because he knew I was going to the service. And unfortunately, at the time, we couldn't find. Um, he really couldn't afford to hire um, help, right? And he got an offer on the farm. He took it. Um, I went to service when I was 17 years old. I graduated from high school on the 7th of June. I was in the military at 17 on June 17th. Um, and did all the things that I probably shouldn't have done. You know, jumped out of airplanes, ate worms, went through Ranger School, all that kind of stuff. Um, I served until um, 1993, and got out, went back to school. I got my associates in automotive technology. I worked as a tech for a lot of years. I now work as a subject matter expert for diesel engines for one of the major auto companies here in the United States. And I've always been into sports. Like I said, I played football, played baseball, wrestled, um, of course, playing football, weightlift, that kind of thing. I think the biggest thing is in 2012, I was run over by a tractor. Um, Tractor started on it threw me on my side, started on my legs, walked up my legs, stopped at my hip, and backed off. It tore me up pretty good. I had 3 major surgeries. Basically, had to learn to walk again, that kind of thing. In 2015, my doctor told me that I had to choose. Um, I had to find another way because I couldn't be on concrete all day long. I limped so bad I could barely. I got a job as a technical advisor, um, and realized that sitting on my butt, I was going to weigh 400 pounds. So I got back into the gym and realized that even though it hurt, I could still do it. I still had the drive. I still had the the want, right? And it was something that I never even realized that I was missing. I miss being in the gym. It took about almost 3 years before I was able to rip the scar tissue in my leg, to catch a full squat. Um, and I did my first meet, a USPL meet, in November of 17. Um, Placed in it, and then in early March of 18, did my first state meet. I won it, and then later on, it just happened that the nationals were in Michigan again. So we went back, and I ended up with a national championship at that time. But it took 3 years of constant work. Um, I don't know if anybody's ever experienced the feel of scar tissue ripping. It's not a fun feeling. It feels like a zipper inside of you opening up. But I've never looked back. I love the sport. I love the people in the sport. I haven't met yet a single person that I've competed with or against that just wasn't a good person. Um, that didn't want to root on the other guy or root on the other girl. And I've seen people lift that were 13. I've seen people lift that were 85, right? In competition. Um, WPC or APF and WPC have a Special Olympics division. My chair here in the Carolinas, actually, he runs that. Eric Hubbs, and watching these kids, these boys, girls with Down syndrome and with handicaps lift, and when they make their lift, the look on their face is it there's no other feeling to watch these kids accomplish that, and the feeling is just so great. Um, even if even if you don't want to lift, and I tell this, nobody has to lift at our level, right? That's a personal preference, but we only have one body, right? We only get one. If you don't take care of your body, your mind is going to go behind it, and it only takes an hour a day. It really does, and it only takes maybe 3 days a week. Healthy mind, healthy body. I mean, the Spartans said that, back, you know, ancient Greece, and they were correct. Yeah, that's kind of my background. Um, I all my kids are grown and gone. It's just wife, my dogs, and now that we're down here in South Carolina where it's warm, thank God, Um, yeah, we're really
Absolutely
happy.
amazing. It's an incredible story, Steve. It is amazing. I was reading up on some of these things before our talk today, including the tractor thing and everything, and it's incredible coming back from that. Now, before we go full swing into going deeper into your achievements and everything,
Sure.
one thing I'd like to touch on with that recovery process, in terms of not so much the immediate recovery, but in terms of those 3 years where you were training, you felt this unzipping feeling, all of these things were going on. Keeping the belief during that time that you would get somewhere, maybe, it's not, you didn't have the expectation that you would get as far as you have now, maybe you did, but either way, taking it one step at a time to realize that things will be better than they were at that point, if that makes sense. A lot of people would get discouraged or what have you with something taking that long. And I'm curious as to how you didn't, because a lot of people have more will inside them than they may realize, but they don't always know how to bring it out. And it sounds like I'd imagine this also feeds into the work ethic that was instilled in you from a young age as well, and discipline. But still, a lot of people would have been knocked back. So, what did you do during that time to keep the faith, basically?
Well, one of the main reasons that I got back into the gym was because I knew that I went from a standing job, that I was active, moving around a lot, to a sedentary job. I was sitting in front of a computer, right? And I'm not as young as I used to be, so obviously my metabolism isn't as fast as it ever was. Not that it was ever fast to begin with, but I also knew that if I didn't do something, right, I'd weigh 400 pounds, right? And I refused to allow myself to do that. So that was really the main reason I got back into the gym. The other reason is I need the physical release to have a peace, an inner peace of mind, right? Um, Anybody that's trained knows when you're out of the gym, as soon as you're done, you get the endorphins raging. You feel good. The whole day's better. Um, I wanted that feeling again, right? And it, it was discipline. I get up at 4 in the morning um, every day when I train, and I go to the gym because I want to be to work for 8, so I can get out of work, at a decent time. And for me, it was not a choice. It was, get your butt up, take your ass to the gym, get your training in, get a shower, and go to work, right? It turned in, it went from, I need to do this, I'm going to do this because this is part of my routine. And that's where, I think that's where people have a problem. They don't make it a routine, right? Going to the gym should be a routine. It should be something that you're going to do, whether you want to or not, whether you're sick or not, whether it's raining or not, um, because the only person that's going to benefit is you. It, and for me, it is a more of a mental release than it is a physical, right? Um, Anybody that's been in this racket long enough knows that there's pain involved. It just is. My elbows right now. My elbows just killing me, right? But that's the way it is in our sport. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to powerlift, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to do physique or bikini or whatever. Just go into the gym, get your heart rate up, get a sweat going, and I guarantee you'll have less colds, you'll feel better, your flexion will get better, and you'll live longer. Who doesn't want that, right? And that's the reason I did it. I have absolutely no desire to be a bodybuilder. I like to eat too much. Number one, and number two, um, I don't have the body type to be a body. You have to be really symmetrical. You have to have symmetry, right? That's what they look for. I don't. I have short arms. I have a very thick chest. I have longer legs than my arms, and I just, you know, I I don't have it, but that's okay because my body type is naturally a strength type. I've always been a strong guy, right? Comes from the farm, comes from playing football, wrestling. Um, so to me, powerlifting, it just gradually went into that. I did do some strongman before I got hurt. When I came back to decide to lift, I kind of checked into it, and they had it's kind of gotten a lot more. Um, it seems like it's more about the money now than it is about the passion. Where the traditional powerlifting is still about the passion. Nobody's going to get rich powerlifting. It's not going to happen. You know, I hear this all the time. Why don't you do strongman? Number one, I don't weigh 400 pounds. Okay. I don't know if you ever met Zemectis or if you've ever met Brian Shaw. These
Yeah.
guys are monsters. They are literal monsters. Okay. I got to shake the hand of Zemectis now. I weigh, right now, I'm walking around about 285 pounds. I'm just at 6 foot tall. He shook my hand. Liam, when he shook my hand, his hand wrapped around my wrist. Okay. I just, he wasn't even the biggest guy in the room. Brian was, you know. These guys are monsters, and they make their money not from what they're doing, but from their sponsorship. Right? And they put in the work, they put in the time, right? Um, that's why I know for me, I prefer to do the traditional powerlifting.
Yeah.
I could probably do it now. I could probably do because it took. I, I was when I first started lifting again, 15. I limped. I was on 4 pain pills a day, right? Um, doctor said I'd always limp. I would never be off the pain pills. And I'm talking Percocets. Okay, yeah. And within 5 months, my limp was gone, and I haven't taken a Percocet since December of 15. Yeah, December of 15. And I refuse to. I won't even take. The strongest thing I take is ibuprofen. Thank you God for ibuprofen, by the way, because it does help. Um, I just refuse to take it. I won't do that again. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the reason I left. It's more up here than it is about records or it is about the medals, that kind of thing. It really is, and it's about the people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
People are
It
great
makes a
people.
lot of. Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, I was just
Go
going
ahead.
to say, Steve, it makes a lot of sense, first of all. And I was just thinking because there's some really good lessons in there. Obviously, the mind body connection is very, very important. Competing against yourself, the people you meet along the journey. There's quite a few things you said in there, and I'm resisting the temptation to go off on tangents with that. But it's very, very good advice for people. And yeah, I mean, with some of the strongmen, not as a small tangent, but I haven't met Brian Shaw, but I've met Tavikus or Big Z, as I call him, and you can imagine the size you are, and wrapping
Yeah,
around the size I am. It's another
he's
story
huge.
altogether. Yeah,
These guys are just you don't. It's really hard for somebody watching them on TV to realize how large these men are
mm,
because they're all about the same size, right? I mean, if you think about it, Brian Shaw and Thor, they're both like 6'9".
yeah,
They're the size of a NBA power forward, right? The thing is, they're also 450 pounds, right? These guys are just huge, and most of them were basketball players. You know, um, Martin Lisi, he was a basketball player, and I think he's 6'4", 6'5", and he's one of the smaller guys at 6'5". I wish to God I was 6'5". You know, I just barely made 6 foot. I doubt I'm 6 foot now because I'm getting older, but I'm close, right? I don't have the size to be able to get into that category. Um, I know that there's been talk about me going equipped, but for me, and it probably would be a good idea at my age to start going equipped because it does save your joints. It does. The problem is you need a team, and because we just moved down here, I haven't got um, I haven't been able to pull a team together yet to do that kind of thing. Anderson, where I am now, Anderson, South Carolina, there's not a lot of power lifters here. Um, there's some kids that are doing it, that are kind of playing around with it. I think it's getting more and more prevalent. Um, but I also think that's social media, which is a good thing, right? Um, I'd much rather see a kid get into powerlifting, get into a strength sport, right? Because it's just going to help him or her, right? And especially you get into a strength sport as a kid, 13, 14 years old, and then all of a sudden when you get into high school and you're playing basketball or you're playing football or whatever sport you just choose, it's just going to make you better. It's going to make you faster. It's going to make you stronger. I was watching the game last night. I was watching Wisconsin and Ohio State. The left tackle on Ohio State is 6'8", 310 pounds. He runs the 40 in 4.4. Okay? The only way I've ever been able to run a 40 that fast is if I got in my truck and drove it. Just, and I thought I was pretty quick because I could run the 40 in about 4.9 when I was in high school, five flat. 4.4 40 at 310 pounds. Think about that. These kids have gotten so much better. And I think it's got to do everything to do with people understanding that these kids need to learn, the to get their bodies in that kind of shape to be able to take care, to be able to perform as they do, right? And it's the same way with everybody else. Even if you're just you know, a tech like I was, or a cop. I have some really good friends they're both cops in Florida. Um, he just did a meet yesterday. He 220 pounds. He squatted I think it's 710 raw. Um, Kat is probably pound for pound one of the best equipped female um, weightlifters in the world, right? And I doubt she's more than about 5'3". She's just a little bitty thing, but I'll tell you what, she is powerful. And she also does bodybuilding, right? And that's the kind of people you meet. And that's what I love about it. It really is.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an amazing insight again. The people you meet along the way, how you found your place in the world with this sport as well, because it really sounds like you have. And on that subject, I mean, I know you said not long ago that the medals and all these things are sort of secondary to the journey that you're on in terms of the people you meet, in terms of your health,
Right.
physical, mental, emotional, everything, and so forth. But you have obviously achieved some amazing things. I mean, the world record and these different championships. So, with this, basically, just would just like to hear about some of your proudest moments, personally, in terms of things that you have won, even though you said that's secondary, from a few different perspectives. Obviously, hearing about the meet itself, or themselves in more than one, will be very interesting. Things that were going on in your life outside of that and what your preparation was like. I also think something that people don't see very much is what actually goes through your mind in a moment like that. I mean, I know it's secondary. I know it's the journey you've been on, but coming from where you've come from in terms of having to learn to walk again, with those 3 years. I know I go back to that, but it is amazing to get to that level. It's one thing seeing the meet, but it's another thing hearing about actually, how does it feel? What goes through your mind? Some people say they can describe it. I ask some people, they say they can't really put it into words. But at the same time, so there's a few different aspects. I don't mind where we go, but basically to get a feel for some of your proudest moments so far and the reason why they're your proudest moments. And I think it's nice to break it down this way instead of going from meet to meet. We can do that, but hearing about the ones that are the most special to you is, I think, more interesting than going chronologically, if that makes sense. my opinion.
Um, you know, I think the proudest meet I've ever, the proudest I've ever been in a meet was at the Nationals in, what was it, in 20. Yeah, did the Nationals in 20 um, during COVID. It was both AAPF and APF. It was done in Lombard, Illinois. Um, it was my best, my highest meet. Um, I I achieved the world record in bench. I think it was a 420. I'm reading it. Hang on a minute. I got to remember. Uh, 424 pounds bench. I went to a 440. I got greedy. I went for a fourth attempt, and I unfortunately, and anybody that's powerlifted knows this. If you don't get a good lift off, you're screwed. I mean, it's just that simple. And unfortunately, the, the gentleman that lifted off for me, he did three great ones, and then the last one was just horrible, and I missed it. It's not a big deal. I'd already made the world record, right? But I hit a 600. I think it was a 638 or something like that, or 629 squat. I think I pulled 603. I've actually pulled 617 since then. Um, that was probably my proudest moment because it was my biggest total, right? I broke 1600, right? Um, the and something else that I remember um, of that is they had the Special Olympics the same day with us, and watching those kids, that it just your heart just goes out to these kids, and the excitement and the happiness and the joy, right? Um, that was probably my proudest moment, right? Now I have world records in both amateur and pro. My bench is a pro record for men's master 2 or 3. I can't remember. 54 years old, so I think it was master 2. I can look. It's men's master. Yeah, 2. Um, I will probably at least hit that mark on this meet. Again, I just have to get a decent total to qualify for nationals again, and then I'll really go for it. Nationals are not until June. Um, the other proud moment was, and you've already seen it through 8 Man. Um, they contacted me kind of like you did. Out of the blue, they contacted me, say, "Hey, we want to hear about your story." So I told them, and ever since then, they've given me a small sponsorship, nothing major, um, but it's nice to be associated with them. They're good, they're good people, quality people. They've helped me out a little bit with equipment, that kind of thing. Um, the I think the proudest thing that I've ever seen, I think the proudest thing is the friends that I've made. There are so many good people in this sport. Not only the competitors, but the judges. Um, I decided to become a judge because I saw the integrity that these people have. Um, now, we both know that there are good judges and there are not so good judges, but at least everybody tries, right? And everybody is trying their very level best, and they want you to succeed, right? But they also want a fair contest. Um, I've taken my test for world judges, and if anybody's ever taken that, they know how tough that is. That it's a hard test. Um, eventually, I'll go in and take the hands-on practical. They want me to get some more experience judging um, before I do that again. But that was probably the meet that I remember the best. Um, I think the meet that really surprised me was my first state meet in 18. I done that small meet, that small regional meet. Um, couldn't get a good squat, but I did get a bench and I did get a pull. So I did get a medal for bench, right? Bench only. But that state meet, it really made me realize, hey, this is something that I can still do. This is something that I'm still pretty good at, you know, because I won my division, and it wasn't a great total. I don't even think it was 1,500 pounds. But if you think about it now, how many people can total, between 14 and 1,500 pounds? Um, from what I read on the internet, that's like 1 to 2% of the human population, right? And everybody thinks that we just go in to a meet and just, hit our salts, get swatted in the back of the head, and go out there and do it. And that is part of it. Yes, you're right. Um, uh, when I when I when I'm getting ready to stand on the platform and I hit my salts and I get my swat, everything darkens. I don't hear the crowd. I hear the spotters behind me. I hear the head judge. I hear nothing else. Everything kind of tunnels, right? I can barely see. Um, for me, that's what happens, because I'm thinking, you know, foot placement. I'm thinking, you know, open my hips, get my knees out, get in the hole, drive out of the hole, um, you know, get that good placement on the bench. Um, for me, because my worst event by far is deadlift because I have short little arms, which helps my bench, but it sucks to be a deadlifter, right? It's a long way to the ground. For me, that's the one. The good thing about deadlifting is it's always the last event, um, and I just think grip it and rip it. You know, you know, you only got three of them, and then you're done, right? For me, that's my mentality when it comes to deadlifting. But the other two are all about form, getting that right mindset. Um, I rage. I'll be honest with you. When I'm on the platform, I rage. Now, I'm not the type of person to be in the back training room screaming and hollering and carrying on. You don't do that in the training room, right? Because you lose all your energy. That's for the platform, right? That's when you do that. And then when you're off the platform, you did your job, you get off the platform, you're done. Calm yourself down, get ready for your next event, get ready for your next lift, right? For me, that's how I am. Now, I know guys that scream and holler in the back, go out, pull a ton of weight, right? I know other guys that go out and you'd think they were in just a training session. The way, because everybody's a little different, right? There's so much mental preparation to this sport because the body will do it. We are very capable. I mean, how many times did you hear about a lady that picked up a car to save her child? Right? We have that capability in our bodies. It's to get our minds to allow us to do that. That is that's the big one. And adapting our nervous system, our central nervous system, right, to accept the weight, right? I have seen so many times as a judge, as a head judge, because a lot of times I'm usually the head judge on the squad. I watch them pick that weight, and I can see in their eyes, holy crap, this is heavy. And I know they're not going to do it. They're not going to get depth or something, right? Because they've already lost it. They didn't, because they allowed their mind to tell them they couldn't do it. That's how I approach a meet, and those are probably the um, those are the proudest moments. At 19, we were talking about this before, when I went to Myrtle Beach for the nationals, the amateur nationals. My son was there, my stepson. He was in the service, and him watching that meet with me, that was very special, right? That was actually the first, believe it or not, in all these years. I had a friend of mine after the meet. Now I won. I actually got best lifter in that meet. But I had a friend of mine take me in the back after the meet and teach me how to bench properly, how to use my back, because I didn't know how. I was stuck at 395. I could not get 400. Could not. Hit 395, no problem on my opener. Could not break 400. He showed me how to do it. 2 weeks I was at 410. Just because he showed me a variation, how to use my back, how to spread the bar. And now I bench almost like an equip bencher. I bench low, right? And it was, yeah, it was just a friend of mine who showed me how to do it. And those are the things that I'm most proud of. The friendships I made, the times where, after the meet, we're all sitting at a restaurant having dinner, talking about everything but powerlifting, right? Those are my proudest times. Yeah, I think so.
Wow, it's incredible. I mean, listening to that, your descriptions are so vivid and everything. I sort of felt like I was there for a moment, and I was just sort of transfixed as I was listening to you. Um,
Well, I've been a
it's
year off the platform, so I'm ready. Just I'm ready to get back on the platform again.
absolutely, and that is something that I think, funny enough, leads nicely into topic with this. First of all, hearing about some of your future plans would be fantastic and everything, but there's an additional aspect to that as well that goes back to the mentality, which is actually the concept of age, because you're still competing at high level at the age you are, and that's an amazing thing. And again, in the concept of mentality, the over the hill mentality, or the mentality of, I am such and such an age, so therefore such and such has to happen for me, obviously it isn't true. I mean, we know that. You said
It's
earlier
not
about seeing people lifting when they're 85 or whatever, and I've come across a lot of that in quite a few different sports.
right.
So it's obviously, again, it's a mental thing. So I think touching on how you don't buy into the concept of, I'm this age, so this is my lot in life, if you like, and you keep pushing is one thing. But also, as I've said, to get a feel for generally the fire that's inside of you and where that will take you from here. Because um, when I hear you talk about this, the passion that you have for the sport still to this day is so powerful. It's tangible, even over this, even thousands of miles, whatever it is, but between us, I can really feel your passion for this. So when it comes to the future plans, I don't mind how far. If you want to just talk about the next meet, that's cool. But if you want to go further ahead in time, that's also cool with me. But those two things really, that keeping pushing, not being satisfied, staying hungry, whatever you want to call it, and the future would be great to talk about, please, Steve.
Right. Well, I'll be honest with you. I will die in the gym. Okay, I will. It's going to happen. If somebody sees me collapse, add some more weight, and call the police. Okay. Um, for me, I will continue to compete as long as I am able to be competitive. I guess would be the word. As long as I'm able to um, keep up. I guess be be able to compete and compete at a higher level. One of the reasons I became a judge is that way. When I stop competing, I'm not going to be away from the sport. I'll still judge, right? I love judging. I love watching the kids come up. The first, the first neat that they've ever done, right? I see it, and you walk up, first time on the platform. It's a big platform, it's a state meet or whatever, and they have deer in the headlight looks, right? And then, they look at me because I'm usually the head judge on the squat, and I look at them and say, look, it's just like training. They hit that first one, and all of a sudden, they're hooked forever. The feeling of that is just, I don't know of a better feeling. It breeds confidence. Um, it helps with your discipline because I can get better. I'm 54 years old. I just turned 54 in July. I am just as strong now as I was 20 years ago, probably stronger. Now, do I lift the way I used to? No, I can't, right? Um, but I still lift heavy. I still lift with a passion, and um, I've actually had people look at me and say, "Your lifts, your training is brutal," right? I don't know any other way. Now, not everybody can do it. My lifting partner in Michigan, he used the conjugate method, and it works for him. It doesn't work for me. He could do sets of 4 and 5, which works really well for him. I can't do that. My body isn't designed for that. My body is designed to lift heavy, hard singles, doubles, triples, and go on to the next set. Right? Um, I plan on having the total in men's master, this relay class, this year. It's 1705. It is doable for me. My squat's really coming hard now. I've finally gotten over a mental stigma on my deadlift. 2 years ago at the World Cup in Idaho, I was on my last deadlift. I had 617 on the bar. I had it above my knees. I was getting ready to lock out. My belt broke. When it broke, I dumped the bar, but it twisted me. And when it did, it hurt my back, right? And even though the back healed within a couple of months up here, I still had that stigma, right? And I'm finally getting over that. It's taken me forever. Um, this is all mental. Like I told you, this is all mental. It's all in your head. It really is. But for me, as long as I can stay competitive, as long as I can say, hey, I gave it all I had. I have a respectable total, right? Um, then I'll still compete. I've known, we talked earlier, there's an 85-year-old. He's a deadlift only guy. He weighs, I doubt he weighs 155 pounds. I watched him pull 455 at 84 years old. And he pulled it like it wasn't even there. Like he was bored with it. So, I hear people, oh, I'm too old to lift. Oh, I'm hurt. Or, the biggest one just drives me nuts. I can't squat because my back hurts. Fix it. There's things you can do to fix your back. I have a blown disc in my back. I've had it for 20 years. Okay? It's blown. Has been for years. But I built all the muscle around it so it doesn't affect me. Right? You can't allow your body to dictate what you do. If you do, then you'll be sitting on the couch watching TV the rest of your life. And who wants to do that, right? How boring is it? Now, well, except for this time of year when I'm watching college football, but that's a whole other thing. Um, don't allow your mind to trick you into saying, "Oh, I can't do that." Right? There's so much help out there. There's so many really good trainers out there that can help you. There's deep tissue massage that can help you. There's physical therapists that specialize in this kind of stuff. The help is there. All you got to do is reach out for it. When I first started in 15, the scar, I have a 13-inch scar on my side for my surgeries, right? It was an inch deep. It literally puckered into one, right? Because of deep tissue therapy that I had from various people. And it took a long time. It took about a year and a half, 2 years. It is now, that scar is actually flush with the rest of my body. And the only way that could have happened is the deep tissue, right? But so for me, this is all about, as long as I'm competitive, as long as I am able to perform at the level I want to perform at, right? Because I don't care what anybody else performs at. I'm not going to be able to compete against a 308 open guy, right? That's 25 years old, right? This guy is squat 900 pounds, but I don't have to, right? That's the beauty about the gloss brenner, right? They use the gloss brenner to pick the overall lifter. So as long as you do really well, you have a chance, right? That's what they do with the WPL, right? That's why they can have a champion that weighs 220 pounds, right? Even though he or she didn't lift as heavy as the 308 or the super heavyweight, because of the gloss brenner, because it evens the playing field, right? And again, I don't think I've ever heard anybody in all the years that I've done this, whether it be judging or whether it be competing, say, "Oh, I got cheated." Never heard it. Because everybody pulls for everybody else. Now, for me, this year, I had surgery in February for bone spurs in my elbow. I literally couldn't straighten my right arm out, and they tried to do a scope. They couldn't do the scope, so they had opened me up. He said he took 3 or 4 big bone spurs out. He put the nerve back where it belonged, took a bunch of bone chips out. And it's taken me literally this long to really be able to lift without a lot of pain. I don't recover as fast as I used to, which makes sense, right? Again, I'm 54 years old. I'm not 25. I don't have the recovery that a 25-year-old does. But I did recover. And in 5 weeks, I'm going to be doing the SPUD event in Columbia, South Carolina. That's a national qualifier. I get a decent total there, which I have no doubt that I will. And then it's off to Baton Rouge in June for the Nationals. And then we're going to be, I think this year, the Worlds, APF Worlds, or WPC Worlds, I should say, are here in the United States. I really wanted to go to Manchester this year. I did. But I had I got sick. The day before the Worlds last year. Worlds last year? Yeah. I got sick. I went from 298 pounds to about 290 a day. I had a 601 or 603 squat. I could not bench. I did get a total. Right? I was sick. Every time I laid down, I couldn't breathe. First time I'd ever bombed a meet. For all you people out there, all you kids that are just getting into this, you will bomb a meet. It will happen. Don't let yourself get discouraged over it. I guarantee you, everybody that you've ever heard of in this sport has bombed a meet. Everybody has. It happens. Because you never know. So don't get discouraged. But yeah, that's my, and I'm going to continue to compete until I can. And then I'll start judging. But I'll never get out of the gym. I will continue to be in the gym until I can't walk. Or until I die. Because I need it. It's a mental thing now. I have to be in the gym. So yeah, that's the plans.
Absolutely. Well, it's incredible living your passion every day and doing something that you love every day, something that you need to have. It's an incredible thing. I mean, there's that old saying, isn't there? Do a job you love and you never have to work a day in your life. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, even though what you're doing, it is hard and you do have to push through the pain and everything, but the way that you love it in that way, it's not work. And I think that's a very valuable lesson for people. And continuing to compete, to judge, to train, those different aspects, regardless of the time, it's an incredible thing. So I'm really glad we mentioned that. Now, the last, yeah, I can do. Sorry, but I just something going past here. But yeah, the last couple of things really with this. You mentioned there about advice for the young ones and everything out there, and you will bounce, how to bounce back from defeat, how to bounce back from something like that, and not let it mentally affect you. I'd like to go a little bit deeper if there's any other things like that you'd like to mention to people just getting into this, because throughout this talk we've mentioned some very, very good powerlifting lessons and topics, but we've also mentioned some very, very good lessons and topics for life in general. So what we were saying about even just now about doing something you love, that can apply to different things. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention? Because we'll wrap this up fairly soon in the next couple of points to young
Well,
powerlifters or any age, but people who are just starting out, basically, please.
don't get discouraged. That's the big one, right? Um, Training is not easy. It isn't. You know, eating, your diet. Um, it's not easy. And you eat. I mean, this morning when I got back from training, I had breakfast. I had oatmeal and a chicken breast. Who eats chicken breast in the morning, right? We do, all the time, right? Because it's a good, clean source of protein. Um, if you don't, the biggest thing I see, and I see it all the time, quit taking advice from social media. Unless the guy is representing Elite FTS or Rogue or um, Cerebus or somebody like that, it's been there, done that, got the T-shirt. They paid their dues. Don't listen to him. Okay, the guys that know what they're doing are busy doing. Not on social media. They're not telling you how to lift. They're not, and the biggest thing I see, and I see it all the time, and I see it here too. And God love them, they're trying, right? If you're going to train somebody to be a power lifter, you better have the background to do it, right? Now, I can train people. I don't have the, I don't, I'm not a big fan of training. For me, because I'm so intense in my training, I expect other people to be that intense, even though I realize that that's not fair to them, right? Um, and then I get frustrated with them. So I don't train a lot of people. I'll give pointers, I'll help out as much as I can, but I don't do that. But what I don't want to see is I don't want to see people trying to um, slavishly use one training method. My training method is something that I learned that works for me. It's kind of a cross between the Russian method and kanji, right? It's a little of both. Um, my old lifting partner, he uses conjugate only, and it works for him, right? I know other guys that they only use the Russian method, lift heavy, grunt a lot, and it works for them. Learn what works for you, and it doesn't happen overnight, and you will change as you get better, as your body adapts. You have to learn when your body adapts to change something up to get it to continue to go, right? Um, and that's something I had, overloads, static holds, that kind of thing. It's very important for your central nervous system to get used to that kind of weight. Don't be afraid to fail. That's what training is all about. You fail in training so you don't fail on the platform, right? Um, don't be afraid to, because the thing is, you might fail today, right? But next week when you go back to it, you'll nail it, or in 2 weeks or whatever, right? Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try new things. Do not, in any circumstances, forget your accessory stuff. I have seen it too many times on the platform, either as a competitor or as a judge. Guy, the person only trains those 3 heavy lifts, gets up on the platform, goes to make a pull, doesn't have his hand right, blows a bicep, blows a quad, whatever, right? Don't forget your accessories. I literally work my body, the top of my head to the bottom, including my neck. Ben Pauly, I don't know if you know who Ben Pauly is. He's a friend of mine. He's a hell of a WPO guy, um, with powerlifting, um, strongman. He's up at RPG in Rochester, Michigan. Um, he's the one that talked to me about that. Work your neck, because if your neck's strong, that means when you get in that position in your bench, you won't move, and you won't strain your neck to where you can't deadlift, right? Um, so I work every body part once a week. Uh, Squats I do twice a week. I do a variation speed box squat with my deadlifts, but everything's hit once a week because it takes the human body about 8 days to recover a heavy lift, right? Between 7 and 8. And that's something I actually learned by getting on the internet and doing research. If something doesn't work for you, get on the internet, research it, research, look at the guys that are, are the bigger ones in the sport, right? If you reach out to them, I guarantee you they will reach out to you and they will help, because that's what the sport is all about. That's the biggest thing. If you have a question, ask. If you get shot down, the person that did it, he's not a power. He's a one man, right? Because we all will support each other, whether you're pulling 100 pounds or you're pulling 1,000. Doesn't matter. We want to support you. So don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to reach out. And that's my biggest advice to people.
Well, it's incredible advice, Steve, because I mean, there's a few different aspects there, but the people you surround yourself with, first of all, in life is very, very important. In working towards any goal, just to be a happy and fulfilled human being,
Right.
you have to have good people around you. So I'm really glad you covered that, because one of the biggest things that comes up time and time again with these interviews is, in a lot of cases, people had to change their peer group. They had to change their associations in order to do something that they love and to succeed at something they want to do. But the advice thing, I mean, that is powerful, because it's something I think in this day and age is very prevalent on social media. A lot of people can pretend to be things that they're not. It's very easy to project that image and for it to look convincing, but then you get behind that and there's nothing there, or at least nothing good anyway. And
It's
that's
funny
a
you say
very
that. It's
yeah.
something I remember a person told me a long time ago. Skinny guys have abs. Strong guys have traps. That's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it's again, it's a powerful lesson, and we'll wrap this up pretty soon. I know the only other thing to touch on. I know you said earlier that you have sort of mixed feelings about social media, and so do I. But in terms of this context, in terms of people helping each other, because it's something that's really resonated with me from what you've said and from working with the powerlifting world in general, the community, the mutual respect, the collaboration, and all of those type of things, it is profound. And so, in terms of if people do want to reach out to you personally and
Sure.
ask you questions, I know you said that your training methods are not for everyone, but in terms of people who do want some pointers and things, can people do that? And if so, what's the best place to get hold of you?
Um, Look me up. I'm on both Instagram and Facebook. Um, and those are my two. I don't. I'm not on anything else anymore. Um, I kind of got soured on everything else, but Facebook and Instagram are the two places that I am um, most prevalent on. Um, ask to follow me and tell me why, and I'll be more than happy to help, or at least point you in the right direction of somebody that I might think that will help you. Um, let's face it, I'm not going to be able to train a bikini model, right? I have no idea, right? But I know people that can, right? Um, and I, again, just like everybody else, in this sport that's been around enough times, we will help as much as we can. Um, but those are my two platforms that I use. Those are the two that I post my training videos on. I don't post as much as I probably should, um, because I guess I'm the type of person that unless I do it on a platform, it doesn't really matter, right? Um, but I know that from the looks, most people like my training videos. People that I know, um, they know that I'm still into it. Of course, I've been out of it for a year, recovering from my elbow. So there'll be more training videos to come. But yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, just look up Steve Ulch on either Instagram or Facebook. I'm on both. I'll be more than happy to help. Um, and if I can't help, I will point to somebody that can. Because I know enough people that if I can't do it, I know people that will help you. So yeah, that would be the best way to get hold of me. I think social media is a great thing up to a point. I think there's a lot of garbage on social media. We both talked about that. Um, so just take that stuff with a grain of salt. Um, look for people that you want to associate, just like when you're in person. Right? Who do you want to associate with? If the person's links and you know activities and stuff aren't something that you think you want to do, then don't worry about it. Find somebody else, right? Um, that's the way I am. I have a very small group of friends, um, but I'm willing to help anybody that honestly wants help.
Absolutely. Well, that's the upside. I mean, as with any tool, and that's all social media tool, it depends on how it's used. But the positive side of it is that people can connect. I mean, even how we can connect like this around the world through technology, it's a
Sure,
tremendous blessing. And
it is.
people can learn things they never would have learned otherwise, and everything. Obviously, there's the downside with the keyboard warriors, the fake people, the opinions, and all of this stuff. But there's the upside. So, Steve, we've talked about some amazing things today, and really, when I set this up, my aim was twofold. One was to have the fun stories and the things from your meets and everything like that. Two
Right.
was to have the life lessons and some of the depth, and we've achieved those and then some. And I know that with people who've achieved as much as you have, there's always more. I mean, there's always other subjects I can have in the back of my mind and things. But with what we've talked about, it's been incredible, and I really think that as well as entertaining people, this is something that people will get real value from. Real tangible benefits. I believe. Obviously, knowledge is only power when it's applied. So it's up
Right.
to the people who listen to this to actually go and do something with it. But at the same time, we've done our jobs very well by putting that wisdom out there in a way that people can pick it up. So I'm very happy with that. So really, I mean, the last thing for me to say to you, first of all, it honestly has been a pleasure. I've been looking forward to doing this for a long time. I'm glad that you bared with me while everything was going on with the move and stuff. So by the
Sure.
way, thank you. And
Thank
thank you also for being an open book as well. I mean, just for sharing everything so honestly. And I know that's the type of person you are, but I appreciate that in this context because that has come over really well. So just thank you for everything. Much appreciated.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate you letting me tell my story. and hopefully it'll help some people. And if I can help 2 or 3 people, that's the whole point. So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Honestly, a pleasure. You enjoy the rest of your day. Obviously, you've got more of it to go than I have, as you can see. It's our evening, but
Right.
I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll be in touch as soon as this is released, and I'll send it to you so that you can also share it and use it from there. Obviously, I'll keep an eye on your future meets and things as well. I'll be cheering for you. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.